Hello, thank you for joining us for this presentation today. My name is Mariana Danilovic, and I am the founder and managing director of Infum. And we will be discussing ways to earn revenue in DeFi, NFTs, and Consensus Blockchain ventures. We formed Infum in 2019 as the crypto marketplace was somewhat slowing down, especially in the startup stages of the business, realizing that the rest of the world will also have to come into this space shortly. Fortune 500 companies, other players in the space. And so Infum was going to be the bridge between existing Fortune 500 companies and nascent yet fast developing companies in DeFi, NFTs, and DAO spaces. We had a very good run up, I would say, in this year. Last year, we had a bit of a slowdown because of the pandemic, but by the mid 2020, DeFi certainly took off, followed by NFTs in 2021, and many different DAO networks that were launched earlier are basically having a big spring and summer this year because of the issues with Ethereum gas fees. So there's been quite a bit of movement in the space, and Infum was invented to be the network of professionals, mostly in the business development areas, that can help some of these companies scale, and in the process that can help grow the ecosystem. And we do this through Infum salons, which are on Zoom. They're every other Wednesday. We do clubhouse discussions every week, at least a couple of them. We have some training materials. We have some initial presentations from some of the top tier companies that are raising funding from top tier VCs this year on our YouTube channel. And we're working on some courses that you can also participate in. Infum is a global consensus community of blockchain and disruptive technology funds and other investors, top tier blockchain, NFTs and DeFi in disruptive companies, Fortune 500 partners, and blockchain and disruptive technology accelerators, labs, and centers. And we work with all of them in accelerating the ecosystem. The members of Infum are VCs, family offices, angel investors, cryptocurrency funds and exchanges, hedge funds, so all the way up and down the private and public sectors in terms of funds, professional, institutional investors, as well as the original angels. I ran an angel network that invested in the launch of Ethereum, so we've been in this for quite some time. We also have a large number of entrepreneurs and developers in this space, as well as crypto enthusiasts, established Fortune 500s, heads of innovation, and then top tier disruptive technology CEOs presenting their companies, which may have even been a startup in 2020 and 2021, and maybe scaling quite fast, by the time we're discussing this, which is fall of 2021. We also created a boost program for ventures and NFT projects. A boost program is somewhat similar to acceleration, but it really looks at how can this actually be applied to real world faster with larger partnerships and revenue generating opportunities. And for NFTs project, it's mostly addressing film, television, music, and gaming projects. So we're living in a DeFi and NFT revolution in this last year for sure. There's a surging demand for NFTs and DeFi apps, and all of those things launched on the Ethereum network. Ethereum was the second largest network in the crypto space. It was meant to become the platform for dApps, for distributed apps. When I first started working with some of the companies that were launched on Ethereum and maybe some of the competitors of Ethereum in 2016-17 timeframe, many of those were also trying to launch apps on top of the platforms. And it wasn't until really 2020 where the first set of applications took off, mostly the DeFi apps. DeFi apps are looking to replace almost everything that's happening in a centralized financial system, and have created some new projects we will discuss, and new opportunities that don't exist in a traditional centralized financial systems. And then NFTs were around for many, many years, starting with CryptoKitties. CryptoPunks project was, given out to people for free by Larva Labs, distributed freely, and some of those are in the hundreds of thousands and millions of dollars today. NFTs were also launched on Ethereum network. There are some other competitors today that are launching their own NFTs, namely Solana has them, Cardano has them, Polygon, which is a fork of Ethereum, is also launching NFTs on OpenSea. All of these have developed in the last quarter because the Ethereum fees are very, very high at the moment to maintain the network. And all of these other solutions are finding ways to lower the fees or make them negligible to the NFT minters. Ether has been outperforming Bitcoin this year, and now we have some other entrants that are called Ethereum killers like Cardano and Solana, which are doing really well. Most of the native chains, have been developing steadily over the last several years, and many of them will still be around and have significant distributed applications on them. So that's definitely a market that's still developing. Some games that are using NFTs and DeFi are very interesting because gamers are already used to these kinds of concepts. And so Axie Infinity was able to combine those two in really in a case study how DeFi and NFT are creating a revolution in the games and entertainment businesses. Axie combines a play-to-earn game based on scarce NFTs with liquidity pools for in-game items. So it's doing DeFi type, liquidity pool formation and staking, and it's also definitely using NFTs to stake them. So there will be more and more of these kinds of games developing. We're seeing quite a few right now in the marketplace. DeFi has been around, one can argue, maybe since 2009 when Bitcoin launched as sort of the first application of a digital currency using decentralized platform using blockchain. Arguably, it's the most prevalent application of smart contracts today, and arguably it's still probably undervalued, as it will replace quite a few financial instruments and financial applications that are existing today, mainly because of a couple of main issues. One is the whole issue of liquidity and lack of friction in financial transactions. There's quite a bit of friction in today's markets. Additionally, DeFi is developing really fast as it's transparent, immutable, and providing access globally to financial opportunities where that access didn't exist. Many of the different types of DeFi applications that you probably heard and have studied in the last few years involve automated market makers, algorithmic stable coins, yield farming strategies, decentralized exchanges, etc. In 2020, in the second half of 2020, there was a period where quite a few DeFi apps took off, and the journalists coined that term the DeFi summer. I think we may be poised for another DeFi uptake in 2021, as some of these projects have locked a value of almost $200 billion to date in total value locked in DeFi contracts, which is the number one way to actually track what's happening with DeFi. And we're going to see, these contracts are trying to basically replace the market that's in the tens of trillions of dollars. So there's quite a bit of room and opportunity for growth. In 2020, SushiSwap performed its liquidity mining attack. Earn Finance started the first yield farm, and Uniswap implemented a retroactive airdrop. And these were 2 or 3 very historic moments in DeFi that not only created new ways of managing money and earning money, but also created very strong communities that formed surrounding the protocol tokens, creating a positive feedback loop that edged DeFi assets valuation higher and higher. And again, there's quite a bit of opportunity left. If you look at 2019 slide, which is this top slide, they talk about different types of DeFi protocols. It's very interesting. Even back in 2019, most of these protocols have already launched. So you look at the payment platforms that have been around, the custodial services, infrastructure, DeFi projects, exchanges, and liquidity. Quite a few DEXs already existing in 2019. This was in April of 2019, this particular graphic. So if you look at the investing tools, the marketplaces, so OpenSea, Rarebit, Origin, they've already been around. So the NFT marketplaces were up and launched by that time. They were nascent, but nonetheless in existence. Derivative platforms were in existence at the time. KYC and identity platforms, stable coins, of course, prediction markets, insurance platforms, and credit and lending opportunities. And this is a slide that's now quite outdated. It's about 2 weeks old probably, where there's a total value locked in DeFi in August was 94 billion. Now it's up to about 150, but by some accounts, and 200 billion by other accounts. So DeFi is growing quite a bit. Very interesting point about the top graphic is that at that time, when that graphic was made, April of 2019, only 2% of all ETH was locked, total value locked in these DeFi protocols. So we're seeing quite a bit of an uptake in this last year. Uniswap version 3 is a very important historical moment for DeFi. It allows users to customize their price range for liquidity positions in a new automated market maker design. And now these decentralized exchanges are all actually adopting this automated market maker design, allowing people to actually add some sort of, not predictability, but maybe a guidance surrounding some of their staking and liquidity positions. The world of NFTs is also rapidly converging into DeFi, led by protocols such as NFT 20, NFTX. NFTs are gaining financial utility by fractionalization and representation as tokens linked to DEX-based liquidity pools. And then users can get exposure to digital art collections without buying individual pieces. So some of the larger pieces that were sold for millions of dollars are now being fractionalized, and therefore that fractionalization of these pieces that were original NFTs is kind of disrupting the definition of non-fungible tokens, therefore creating opportunity for some fungibility in that market. So the world of DeFi and NFTs is somewhat converging. If you look at NFTs, they have led, I would say, the marketing campaign for all crypto assets this year. This is when the world became enamored with crypto. I've been in the market for a very long time. I think I presented about the blockchain space here at this conference as the conference launched, so a few years back. The last time I talked about it was in 2019. And my point back then was that the blockchain will disrupt entertainment markets and a variety of other spaces, but I was focused on entertainment, and NFTs have disrupted the entertainment market. So here we are a couple years later, that has happened in a big way. At the moment, the biggest revenue generating opportunities in NFT space are collections and artistic pieces. However, there's quite a bit of movement in the gaming space to create NFTs that are morphed into other things and other assets. Games are being created using NFTs that are being distributed through loot boxes. So we're going to see quite a bit of disruption in the game space. And we are, later on, I will give you some examples of film and television programs that are being funded using NFTs. So there's a disruption in funding, marketing, and distributing of those types of entertainment projects, as well as, we've seen quite a few albums drop as NFTs this year, kind of disrupting the music marketplace. NFTs on top tier platforms at the moment, if you look at the actual value of these NFTs on top tier platforms in this year, the sales in OpenSea have been pretty steady at 150 million in June, continuing in this quarter as well. And the sales of not just animated collections, but the sales of things like loot, where it's not even animated, it's just a listing of items in your bag that you can then create something from. They're reaching a couple $100 million a week at this point. So there's quite a bit of activity going on OpenSea this year and on other platforms. The sales volume hit record high in Q1 and Q2 of this year, according to the DApp radar, about 1.5 billion in both quarters, and again, not really slowing down. The genre sales, collectibles are still the highest genre. Sports are doing quite well. Art, utility NFTs, game related NFTs, and then metaverses. And there's just quite a bit of projects going on in each one of these spaces. I want to highlight that CryptoPunks are now being owned by large brands like Visa. They're being sold for hundreds of thousands of dollars. They were distributed free at the beginning of this process. And many of the, I don't think I have the Bored Ape Yacht Club. The Bored Apes did sort of a similar thing, and the other collections are doing similar things in terms of dropping some of or all of the collection for free, and then letting people kind of resell them and having some residual value from the resale. Loot is a project founded by the founder of Vine. Vine was a competitor of YouTube. That was much shorter video format. He decided to take loot, which is something that existed in games for a decade. In a role-playing game, if you win a sword or you win a captain or you win some other like a ring or some other major object that helps you play the next level, you put it in your loot bag or your loot box. And gamers are quite familiar with this. So Loot basically distributed 8,000 loot boxes or bags with just basically text written on them. They're just like that, their logo, black with white text on them. And the text had 50 different objects spread out over these 8,000 loot bags or boxes. And since then, companies are who have either purchased this loot box or were given one at the beginning, they're creating games surrounding this. There are guilds being formed based on the items in the loot box. There are sites that are now tracing the rarity of these items, and you can see how an entire games development ecosystem was born on top of Loot. And we see more and more projects doing similar things with music, film, television, etc. The most important thing about the way to earn revenue in this space is to realize that one has to really invest in community in order to learn of what's going on in the space, what's the best way to earn revenue, and how to earn revenue, community by community. So this is a very interesting and important point about the entire marketplace. These communities are the heart and the soul of every blockchain project. and a strong foundation that improves the likelihood of this project's success. So in the past, where we analyze companies, we just look at the management team, but here we really have to look at the size, shape, and the strength of the community underlying that project. The members of the community, especially with some of these NFT drops, and certainly with all of the DAOs that are native chains, etc., DeFi projects, the members of the community create video, they raise funds for the project, they show other people how to use features of the technology, how to contribute to that technology and earn revenue from it. They manage, Telegram, Discord groups. They amplify the strength of the community on crypto Twitter. They may contribute some open source code or some graphic design for NFT drops. They may build apps to use with the core technology. So there's a network effect of crowdsourcing through these communities that is propelling these projects in many different directions. One, it's giving them value. These communities are very vested in the project because they own the token and or the NFTs from the project. They want those to grow in value. It's a way they earn revenue, and it's the way they invest. So these are some of the strongest communities we've ever seen. The future of any blockchain is dependent upon the promise of the engaged and talented developers and now creators, artists, and other community members. Infum basically is based on our community and strength of our community of people who can develop businesses, help companies grow revenue, promote and market them, help them raise funding, etc., invest in them. So that's a similar type of community structure. Members of a blockchain project are not just fans, they're merely supporting the team. They're actually part of the sports team and therefore active participants in the success of that team's performance or that company's performance. And because of that, some of the incumbents trying to get into the space that are centralized and they really don't have these supportive communities would have a very tough time competing with some of these projects. And finally, there's a DAO, decentralized autonomous organization, which is really a community that has become a company in the space. And DAOs have been now legitimized in Wyoming and some other places around the globe as a way of forming companies. So not just the C Corp and LLC, but you can actually have your DAO. You can organize it here in the US. And I think the DAOs will have huge impact on the way that companies function in the future in general. How to earn revenue with DeFi? Well, staking is probably one of the most important things that came about. Bitcoin was a proof of work network, and Ethereum was a proof of stake. So and proof of work. Now moving towards proof of stake. So staking is showing that you are actually part of this group, this DAO, by keeping or holding your assets inside the DAO and staking your tokens into a smart contract so that you would earn some more tokens in return. But by putting this into a stake on Ethereum network, you're also allowed to do more mining on the network. And as the block awards are given, as somebody solves the problems in the Ethereum network, the more you're staking, the more likely you are to actually earn, the gas fees, the rewards. So at the moment, the minimum requirement to stake on Ethereum is quite high. It's 32 ETH, which is almost, $100,000 plus or minus, depending on the value of the ETH. Some platforms use, polling mechanisms that allow you to deposit a lesser amount and be part of a liquidity pool. And so liquidity provider is basically a decentralized exchange such as Uniswap or SushiSwap or PancakeSwap on the Binance Smart Chain that supports swaps between token pairs like, Ethereum and ETH and USDT. And the liquidity comes from pooled tokens belonging to liquidity providers or LPs. so that ordinary DeFi users can place their tokens into a smart contract controlling that pool, and it will earn you a fee from all swaps, and it would the more trades that are conducted via that pool, the more you would earn as a staker in that liquidity pool. So if you want to join a liquidity pool, you want to learn how big it is and how many trades are actually happening in it within that pool. Yield farming is another way to earn additional tokens with some of the DeFi projects. When you're a liquidity provider in a DEX like Uniswap or one of the competitors, you will receive tokens denoting your pool share. And these tokens can then be locked into a yield farm, which are essentially another form of a DeFi protocol that rewards you with more of the same token or with a different token, so that your pooled assets are earning a share of all fees in Uniswap, and your LP tokens can also be earned. So you're earning twice on the same, staked tokens. Lending platforms pay you, an APY for locking your assets into a smart contract. So you're getting a return on your investment there. These tokens are then utilized by borrowers who pay interest. This is very similar to traditional banking. A portion of this is returned to the lender. And so Compound Finance at some point was offering a yield of 8.19% for lending DAI, for example. And each lending platform usually gives you yield back in their native tokens, sometimes in Bitcoin on Ethereum. So you can just check and see, platform by platform, but that's become, so you can lend out your assets by allowing them to be locked into a smart contract on a lending platform and earn some return on those. DeFi protocols are creating new ways of earning revenue every day, and I'm sure once next year we have this presentation, there will be quite a few more ways of doing that. There's a huge entertainment disruption happening with NFTs, DeFi, and DAOs. For your business, for business of data science. So if you look at this Netflix slide that talks about the role of data scientists at Netflix, that at the moment in blockchain, with blockchain protocols, is being replaced by the blockchain itself. So the blockchain platforms are decentralized, they're peer-to-peer, and some of these entertainment projects are now gaining direct access to fans. They're converting fans to team members. They're not analyzing team member data. They're not collecting data on these team members, and they're not using that data to then serve programs, video to them like Netflix did. So this is a completely different business model. And as the next generation of data scientists enters this market, I sort of urge you to think through ways that you will participate in these decentralized platforms with everything you learned as a data scientist, but in an innovative way, realizing that everybody that you may want to analyze is actually now part of your team, and you want to grow and strengthen that team. So it's really kind of taking the industry in a different direction. How to earn revenue with NFTs? Let me count the ways. You can mint your NFTs. You can collect and trade NFTs. You can create collections of NFTs. These are the Bored Apes and the CryptoPunks, and when there's 10,000 of them, and some have more rare components than others. You can stake your NFTs. You can pre-sell NFTs to create games out of them. You can earn revenue with games with NFTs, like Axie Infinity. You can use your NFTs to fund film, television, music, games, and other entertainment projects. You can launch your own NFTs marketplace. You may even get some funding for one of the native chains, Solana-like, or some other competitors coming later into the space, trying to become the NFT networks themselves. You may get some funding from them to launch these NFT marketplaces. And you can NFT physical objects, you can NFT e-commerce objects, creating supply chain management using NFTs. So it's an infinite number of ways that one can really earn revenue with NFTs. Here's some interesting deals of what's happening in the space that you may want to be aware as you think about how you want to participate in it. CryptoPunks was the first deal that did quite well in the NFT space, and they now became a brand that someone like United Talent Agency, which only manages top tier talent in Hollywood, is representing, trying to extend them into a variety of consumer brands, products, and other entertainment media projects, etc. And they also represent Meatbits and Autoglyphs, which are two other art projects for Larva Labs. So this is, quick branding of a project. I would say that something like a Hollywood agency would pick up that quickly. Visa has, purchased an NFT for 150,000, CryptoPunk number 7610. And also there's a bundle of 9 CryptoPunks that sold just under 17 million in May of this year. Budweiser is doing some projects with NFTs. So we're going to see all large brands coming into the space. And I think a lot of the projects that are being launched as some of these collections, they're counting on brands coming into the space and buying up the collections to promote products and services and strengthen their branding. Stoner Cats was a television deal that got funded using NFTs. They raised 8.3 million in 35 minutes by selling access to the Stoner Cats NFT that also allowed them access to view the Stoner Cats. If you have a $15 subscription to Netflix or to Amazon, paying $800 to get access just to Stoner Cats seems a little bit outrageous, but yet you would have been the first participants in funding a television project using NFTs. 3Lau, Justin Blau, also known as 3Lau, is the DJ that pioneered using NFTs as drops of his first album. He sold 11.7 million, dropping his album as an NFT in just under 24 hours. And that was the record breaking and, the most expensive single non-fungible token ever sold. He earned over 20 million from more than a dozen NFT auctions over the past year. And because of that, he was able to raise $16 million in seed funding led by Peter Thiel's Founders Fund, Paradigm, and a crypto-focused investment firm founded by the co-founder of Coinbase, former Sequoia Capital partner, Matt Huang. So some of the top-tier Silicon Valley investors, they're trying to change the way that royalties are paid on music projects. So Royal will basically share a lot of its revenue with the fans, and the fans would actually be the team members we were describing, as saying when, how data scientists are going to participate in this whole marketplace. How can you share revenues with your fans? Will change the way you treat those fans and how you deal with their data. So there has to be, I would say, a reshaping of the data science model for entertainment. These are some of the projects that Infum is doing. We're in the business of supercharging ventures. So Superworld is a company I've been advising for several years. They have 64.8 billion unique plots of virtual land available that you can buy with 0.1 ETH. And on top of that, they launched an NFT marketplace. And in that marketplace, you can create music projects, festivals, screenings, pre-screenings. You see how this becomes the world of entertainment where many of these projects can reside. Uprime is a global AVOD and premium VOD provider. It's a company in Paris, France that's converting its viewers from being a passive Amazon or Netflix viewer to being an engaged team member of Uprime to distribute the programming. Monex is a company that attaches a legal contract to any blockchain transaction, which I think where the next level of NFTs has to go. Planet X is a sci-fi film project in metaverse with NFTs that has one of these collections. Sci-fi Art Anthology is actually an art project that we're working with that's been around for a couple of decades, but was able to use some of the top tier art from the sci-fi books like War of the Worlds and The Time Machine, and convert it into a variety of consumer products. And so we're helping them with their NFT strategy. If you have a startup that you want us to look at, we were happy to have you present at one of our salons. You can come to our clubhouses and ask our experts questions about how to use DeFi, NFTs, and DAOs for your startup. You can learn from our YouTube channel, our newsletter, and a variety of other things you can find on our website. And we'd love to hear how you're going to restructure the data science to support this world, which I feel would be another unicorn or several unicorn in the making applications. So thank you, and looking forward to answering your questions.